Hi, hello. I'm Alicia Mafadia. I am your host. And every week I am back with a new episode, allowing you to go beyond what you see online to keep you accountable to playing bigger. In today's episode, we're going to talk all about branding. And I feel like a lot of people, when they hear this word branding, they really misunderstand the power behind it. We aren't talking logos. We're not talking color palettes or fonts. We're talking about the way your brand makes someone feel. If your brand was to walk into a room, have some conversations, hang out for a little bit, have a bit of a cocktail, cheers, make some small talk, how would people feel after your brand left the room? What would be the feeling? How would they be remembered? This is your brand. So in today's episode, I am joined by someone who I think is so incredible that I have hired myself. So I can absolutely attest for the work that Kristy creates, the person she is, the brand she's built. So please, please, please help me in welcoming Kristy Campbell. In case you haven't come across Kristy's work, she is the founder of Pink Pony Creative, a New Zealand-based brand identity designer and international speaker renowned for her daring, vibrant, and boundary-pushing approach to branding. With clients all over the world, Kristy believes in the power of cultivating a distinct visual identity to propel businesses to success. She embraces an anything but boring aesthetic in design and business. And with a name like Pink Pony, you know she works a little differently. In today's episode, we're really going to break down all the key successes that has built Pink Pony to be such a leader, so that way you can actually understand what makes a memorable brand, what makes a leading brand, because that is what Kristy has built, and how you can start to actually implement key little components to building your own and to allow your brand to become the one. I want to start the podcast episode off with your She Got Lucky story. So a moment, a time where somebody has broken down what you have achieved, what you've created, because it is insane. And I say this every time I've got a guest on because I get the best guests. But can you think of a time where you had that She Got Lucky moment?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's funny because when you think about luck, I've thought about this a lot lately. And I used to say I've just been lucky. I've just been really lucky to get to where I am, or I have the opportunities that I've had. But luck is where preparation meets opportunity. So it's not luck. You work hard for what you're lucky for, which is essentially everything that I've done. And, obviously so many other people who have had success in whatever they do the same thing. But I mean, in terms of my journey, I just feel it's one of those things where I spent so long after university when I graduated, 7 years, not feeling like I was aligned with what I should be doing, sort of thinking I'd go to work thinking, is this it? Working for businesses that I wasn't really passionate about, didn't have much creativity within them. And then finally, when I started Pink Pony, I started to gradually feel like it was the right thing and it was just my calling. And I put everything that I am into my brand and my business, which I think is why people love the brand so much, because it couldn't be any more authentic than what it is to who I am. But I mean, if we're really saying when I felt like I really got lucky, it would have been when I was asked to speak at Adobe Max the first year in 2022, and it was an international conference. It was flown over by Adobe to LA to speak at the biggest Adobe conference in the world, and that was just absolutely incredible. And now I've been back every year since then, going back again for my third year this year as a headlining speaker, which is crazy. Yeah, so honestly, stuff like that just feels like a surreal dream come true. But again, it's where preparation meets opportunity. It's a reason why I'm there. It's not, and I have to remind myself that, because I do have quite a lot of self-doubt and imposter syndrome. I'm like, no, I'm here for a reason. They asked me back for a reason. It's not just because I'm lucky.
And that's a really interesting one. I really love that you've brought that up in a sense, because from over the guests that we've had, the She Got Lucky can be somebody else saying something. Maybe it's someone on your social media channels. Maybe it's someone in your circles. But I really love this because, in a sense, it was kind of you who has been telling yourself you got lucky with this element, which is a huge element. It is a huge, huge deal. And to remind yourself that it wasn't just luck, far out. Like Adobe didn't just, one of the major brands, businesses, companies in this world did not just be like, let's just put our finger on the map and find someone from that city or whatever. There is so much that went into this. And I think it's interesting that, like, I really would love to think, like, do you think that maybe one of the male speakers sort of has that same approach in the sense of like, oh yeah, I got lucky? It really is quite a few elements that come up in female entrepreneurs. And I feel like this element of luck, they didn't just work for it, do it, be it, embody it, that there's sort of got to be a luck element that we remind ourselves of, I think is a really interesting piece. So I love that you brought in that you kind of had, like, we're like, oh, this is the lucky part. It's like, hang on a second. No, you don't get to do this by being lucky.
Yes, definitely. Like, it still crosses my mind every day. Even social media, I do think there is luck in social media. Obviously, it's about being in the right place at the right time, and obviously aligning your skills or, you know, your voice or whoever you are with that right timeline. I mean, a little example of this is when Reels first came about. I had heard that, you know, people on TikTok were saying, post your TikToks on Instagram Reels, you grow like 1,000 followers overnight. And at the time, Reels was so new. No one knew what Reels was. And so I was like, oh, let's give this a go. And I just tried it. Again, I think because I was like an earlier adopter, there is some luck in that because you're just there at the right time, at the right place. I just started posting. My videos weren't even that good back then. And there was a moment where, like, one of my fourth videos at the time did really well, and I gained like 10,000 followers in a week, and that felt like luck for sure, because I was like, wow, this is just, I was at the right place at the right time, and I decided to post what I do. But again, yeah, it is all about like how you prepare and then you have to meet that opportunity and actually take that opportunity, because a lot of people don't take those opportunities. A lot of people are too scared to, or they're worried about what people might think, or they feel like they're not prepared. But essentially, most of the time, no one's actually that prepared for things. Like being asked to be an Adobe Max speaker, when they asked me, I had never, ever in my life done any public speaking. The only public speaking was at, like, you know, a friend's wedding. So it was completely outside of my skill level and comfort level. But I was like, I'm not going to miss this opportunity just because I have not prepared or I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna learn. I'll just learn along the way.
And I feel like that is spot on, and it really is interesting because there's an element of being in the right place at the right time is where there's been a lot of similarities in the stories, that I was in the right place in the right time, or you could argue that I was in the right place in the right time. And someone else could have seen that advice of, oh, you can go wild on Instagram by sharing your TikToks. And they're like, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? What if I just look silly doing this? What if it really is a case of you heard it, you had no idea whether it would work, but you did it? Really want to sort of come back to that as well. You know, I think you're incredible, but I just want to highlight that in that moment. And again, for our listeners, it's again a reminder of taking action. You make the right time. You make the right place by taking action. So I want to take a little deep dive to the left or the right. And I want to go into Pink Pony, because can you talk me through? Let's go right back. Where did you get the idea? When did you think pony? And was it already, you had this big vision for it all? Or did it just sort of come together? Let's go right back to the start.
I do love talking about this because I'm really passionate about it, because obviously we create visual identities for businesses. That's what we do as our day job. So we're very good at like creating these awesome visuals for brands and companies. And obviously that's one tiny segment of a brand, because a brand is very large. You know, there's brand identity, which is actually all about your voice, your personality, your tone, etc. And then, there's just so many elements to a brand. But if you bring it right back to the start of Pink Pony, when I started Pink Pony, just to put it out there for those who don't know, I started it as a 100-day design challenge where I was bored at my old job. I was creatively drained. I was like, I need to do something to like fuel this creativity that I've lost. So I decided to take this 100-day design challenge where I just posted a piece of work, whatever it might have been, on Instagram for 100 days. It was challenging, not gonna lie, but I did it. And when I decided to use Instagram as the account to keep me accountable. And when I was thinking of growing this, starting this Instagram page, I had no clue or not even any plan to make that a business. There was no plan to make it a business. And I was thinking, oh, what do I call this page? You know, like I could just call it Kristy Campbell Design, which would have been fine at the time. But I was like, no, I want to do something bigger and a little bit better than that. So I decided to call it Pink Pony. I had a whole bunch of name options, but I kept coming back to Pink Pony. The reason why it's Pink Pony is because when I was younger, I was obsessed with pink and I loved ponies. I grew up riding horses and just loved ponies. You know, I was a very like unicorn gal when I was a kid. So that was like the first step I made to making a brand that was so authentically me, is because I chose something from my childhood to then like kind of bring back into my adult life. As kids, you know, we're so obsessed with these amazing, cool things. We tend to lose a lot of our playfulness when we're adults. So it's like I dove back into my childhood to grab that and then like just go for it. And that was the first step in making a brand unforgettable and memorable, because so often, and I don't mean to offend anyone here, I see designers start a business and they call their company Kristy Campbell Design. Sure, it'll do okay. It could do well for you, but it's not memorable. You can't then play on that name for whatever you're trying to do in your business. What happens when you decide to employ someone? Will they stand behind your business as much if it's called Kristy Campbell Design, or will they be more proud standing behind a company that's called Pink Pony Creative, where they can actually get behind and feel like they own part of that identity as well? And even down to the fact, like, not that I'll ever sell Pink Pony, but maybe you do have the opportunity to sell it one day. It's going to be more difficult to sell if your company is called Kristy Campbell Design over something called Pink Pony Creative. So having like the first thing you can do when you start your business or your brand, try to go outside your comfort zone just a little bit. I knew it was a weird name, Pink Pony. I was like, nobody calls their design agency Pink Pony. I even had a few people laugh at the idea that I called it Pink Pony. But deep down in me, I was like, this feels right. This feels bang on for me. I like that it's a little bit weird and different. I like the fact that people kind of think, oh, Pink Pony, that's kind of unusual. There's a story, it's a cosmetic company, Drunk Elephant. She had the same thing. When she started the company, people were like, Drunk Elephant, that's not right. Like, I just don't think you should call it a cosmetic company or a skincare company Drunk Elephant. But she knew deep down in her heart that she was like, this is the right option. I wanted to be a little bit different and punch through every other company that's just like soft and like, so it can make a big difference. I mean, look at her now. I think she sold her company for like $800 billion or something freaking wild. Like, it could be million or billion, but either one is incredible.
not a big difference.
Yeah. So that's first step. Yeah, same.
I really love that, because one thing that, especially going back to when I started my business, is I thought that in order to be higher end or to attract higher end clients, I needed to have sort of a name that would entice them in a sense. And especially when you're starting your business and you haven't especially at first, you don't necessarily understand what professional means in a sense most of the time. Not everyone, but most of the time you learn that this idea of professional gets thrown out the window and you get to create it yourself. But I do see that a lot of people who want to be bringing in higher clients, higher level clients, and want to be taken seriously and a luxury sort of brand in a sense, there isn't that personality and there isn't that fun to it. And even from the outside, just hearing, Pink Pony Design Agency, probably before I knew your brand, before I'd seen what you guys do, before I see how you show up and everything, I probably would have been like, yeah, that sounds fun. You've said yourself, comes back from your childhood. So someone could be like, yeah, it's a bit childish. But
totally.
what you've done with it from there. So I really love that you've thrown out this idea that I feel like a lot of people fall into. I want to be like everyone else, so I need to come up with a name that's going to be taken seriously.
Definitely. It's really interesting because I didn't look bigger picture what this was going to be like when I started that Instagram. And even when I made the switch from just 100-day design challenge to actually registering the company name, it did run through my mind. I was like, should I actually do this? Should I call this business Pink Pony, or do I call it something else? But I just, I went with my gut, continued going with my gut, and it did work out. So like with Pink Pony, what I did was I actually caused this like juxtaposition of being playful and professional. I brought them together. Although we're called Pink Pony, we work very professionally. We do high quality work. And essentially that's what we do for our clients. We actually have quite a lot of playful, quite bold and daring clients that we work with, but we actually do everything in a very professional way. We provide them a professional experience. We provide them that professional visual identity. So it's actually everything that I do for my brand and that we are as a company, we do for our clients. I was asked once after a speaking session, do you get worried that your clients feel overshadowed by your brand? Are they intimidated by the fact that your brand is so bold and loud? And I said, no, they don't, because they see us as Pink Pony, bold, daring, vibrant, pushing the boundaries. And they think, I want what you've done for your own brand for me. So it's worked so well. And I do think, every business is different. Whatever your goals are, I know that not everyone will call their company Pink Pony because they want a different visual personality or like they have a different tone that they want to portray. But essentially, going that one step further and taking that little bit of an extra step has really helped me. There's something that I've started to learn and understand called thematic branding. I actually don't know if that's an actual term. I might have made it up, but it's quite a common thing that brands do. So think of Disney, right? Disney is a brand. If you go into the theme parks or any Disney experience that you might have, everything is so heavily branded. As you walk into, Disneyland, the toilets are branded, the merch is branded, the tickets are branded. Like the staff even are so immersed in the Disney experience. They are like Disney characters themselves. That is thematic branding. And if you can do that in your business, you can actually create this like outstanding experience. So at Pink Pony, we have the office, which I call the stables. We have my team, which we all refer to ourselves as the ponies, the podcast, the social ponies. Our toilets literally have like fillies and colts on it. Like I've made the whole experience so on brand. It's not even funny. And even is down to the fact like, even within my speech content, I try and actually theme it to this kind of like cowboy, Western pony theme. And it's caused my brand to then carve into people's minds even more because I'm not just Pink Pony Creative with the pink walls in our office.
Yes.
It's so much more than that. So if you can actually apply this thematic experience where people can immerse themselves into your brand, it's just going to become so much more memorable. I do think I, in some way, have it easy because ponies and Western themes are really hard to like grasp. I even have, as simple as this amazing disco cowboy boot in our office. So it's really easy for me to immerse myself into my own brand. And I know that not everyone could do it so easily, but yeah, I think that's a really good example of how you can actually take your brand and really bring it to life and not just have it like as a logo slapped on a piece of paper or whatever it might be. I just realized my little light went off. So it's not as nice and bright on my face, but that's fine.
I think what you have touched on is so powerful because a super brand, a brand world in a sense, it's an experience. And in order for us to remember brands, and you don't have, and this is why I love this, is because people, I think it's easy to say, oh, well, Macca's, Apple, Starbucks, they think of brands, big super brands, and they think, well, they're big companies, they have all this money to put behind XYZ. They were all small at one point. And what I love is because of the power of social media where we get to organically advertise our brand, put it out in the world for free. Yeah, it might not be linear, but we can build a super brand. It requires us to feel. When we see your brand, we need to feel something. If it is literally just, okay, pink logo, face, Kristy, this is the brand. All right. There are so many other designers who also are like that. But what makes your brand memorable, recognizable, so recognizable far out, is the consistency. And it's not, and this is a big thing, is consistency. I think that a lot of people think, oh, well, that's posting. Kristy must post quite often. And it's not. Anytime I see you show up, Kristy,
No, definitely not.
It's like you are embodying Pink Pony. Look at this, what we've done. Look at this new addition to the Pink Pony stables. It's an experience. So can you talk maybe a little bit about, for example, bringing that experience to your content online? How do you, like, let's sort of think about the dissection, because a lot of the time I like to call it branding in disguise because it's not obvious. People aren't sitting there being like, oh, Kristy wants to take me through the pink pony experience. It's what you're sort of doing by the little inclusions, the things you're doing. So can we talk about how do you bring the pink pony experience into the content you share online?
That's a great question. There's so many answers to this. I'm actually talking about this coming up in Adobe in Miami. It's in this year in a few months. So I've
Preview.
learned a lot about all this, and I know a lot of words. I know all the right slogans, and but it's like completely. I do think there's a big part of it where your personal brand has to intertwine with your business brand, because essentially with any type of business, it has actually started fundamentally from someone else's personal brand. Think about Kylie Cosmetics as a great example. Virgin Airlines is a great example. They're all born from someone's personal brand and what they truly believe in. Even X, Twitter, Elon Musk, like all of his businesses are born from his personal brand. That's why they're so strong. So if you can start to create this really strong personal brand and actually intertwine it with your business, like I am Pink Pony is me, you can start to build this really profound experience, because people want to buy from people relate to people, and there's a lot to that. So there's like little instances, people say be vulnerable online. I agree, we have to be vulnerable, but you can't just say to someone, go and be vulnerable. What the heck does that mean to someone? Someone who doesn't know how to open up and share their experiences will have no idea how to be vulnerable. So it's about understanding that, and it's like, to be vulnerable, you've got to tell stories, you've got to share your own experiences, share your own opinions and your thoughts about things, so you become a thought leader in your industry. And all of those things can bubble up and create a really strong personal brand, which will then be the foundation of your business brand. So it's such a challenging thing to learn. And I think it's important to remember you're not going to do it overnight. It's a real small stepping stone. So it's, the little things, like trying to share more of yourself, not just, like, hey, I'm Kristy, I'm an Adobe Max speaker. I've never had any Adobe Max speaking experience before, and I'm terrified every time I get on stage, but I still do it. That is so much more relatable and so much more engaging than just saying, I'm an Adobe Max speaker. So if you can take it one step further and actually share a little part of yourself, that maybe you're being vulnerable, you're opening yourself up so that people can relate to you about anything you do, you'll be so much more relatable, and people will start to trust you and want to buy from you because they believe in what you do. Although this example, I don't think anyone can ever reach the height of Taylor Swift, but she's a really good example of how incredible a personal brand can be if you just open yourself up. She's very vulnerable in all of her music and all of her songs. She provides a full experience. I know she has experiences for all her super fans, and she also obviously just continues to have exclusive listening experience for her fans. She completely allows people to be immersed in what she does. There's another term, brand immersion, that I've started to use. It's where you go beyond just what you do. So Taylor Swift doesn't just sing songs. She is completely so much more than that. She even has gone so far that she obviously wears these extravagant clothes and amazing outfits at all her performances, but now everyone does the same. They're reflecting her own brand. So if you can build a brand where someone can immerse themselves in, that's just going to be so much stronger. I'm so passionate about all this stuff. I'm love talking about it.
I love it as well. And I love that you've touched on, first of all, the bridge, connecting your brand to whoever is watching, because that's the key component, is using stories, using that really allows people to feel. And because you need a lot of our decision making, a lot of our thoughts, we are unaware of. It is deep in our subconscious. And you think about how many things we see at every moment of every day, especially online. And how do we ensure that your brand isn't a fleeting thought, but is instead deeply seeded into our long-term memory? And that requires the emotion. So I love that you've brought Taylor Swift in. And yes, people could say, oh, you can't compare her. And it's not about comparing yourself to Taylor Swift. It's about looking at other incredible women who have built insane things and learning from them. Because it would be silly for us to be like, oh, well, she's on another level, so let's not even look at her. Someone could say to you, Kristy's on another level. She was once at the starting level.
Yes.
So let's learn from that. And I think, Kristy, you also spoke about vulnerability. This is really good, because two words that I see thrown around is be vulnerable and be authentic. And especially when it comes to your brand,
Yes.
be authentic. How would would you say to someone, bring authenticity into your brand? How would you share, this is how we're going to do it, and actually be practical rather than just, you need to be authentic to build an awesome brand?
No, it's a challenging thing because, again, it's all about like being confident with who you are. And I think that can be a real challenge for a lot of people, and completely, not saying even completely believing in everything you do or say, because there's so many people who do so well and still have self-doubt and like feel imposter syndrome about what they're doing. A really good example is a awesome designer. His name's Made by James. His real name is James Martin. Now, friends with him, I've met him a few times. He's built this amazing platform on Instagram, so definitely look him up. But he is an incredible designer, but has done a really good job at being authentic and vulnerable with his audience. He's very open about it, but years ago he struggled with drug and alcohol addiction, and he flipped his whole life around and is now doing incredible things, I'm sure making quite a lot of money, and really supporting and really changing the design industry. But that is the perfect example of, he's not just hiding this portion of his life from everybody, because he's actually bringing it back up, and he's inserting a lot of stories he tells to be authentic and to build this relatability of someone who really struggled and now is doing incredible things. And people look at that, are very inspired, they're very motivated, they're like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. So I think it's really important, again, look at your past experiences, look at your roots, where you come from, your childhood, try and dive into that and really like use that as a foundation to be authentic and vulnerable with your audience. Like literally just open up a little bit and people will learn to trust you more. I think that's really important. But yeah, essentially I agree. Vulnerability and authenticity are super fluffy words. What do they really mean? Seriously. There was talk by an amazing, incredible designer called Kristy, and he has a really great, simple way of explaining how to be more authentic. So if you think about who you are and how other people perceive you, I might say that other people perceive me as quite a confident, bubbly, bit of a go-getter kind of person. But then make a little list about what others don't know about you. So what they don't know about me, I do struggle with imposter syndrome and self-doubt, and I'm a bit of a people pleaser. But if you try and take one or two of those words and transform them together into something a little bit more meaningful and relatable, something like confident self-doubter, you'll create much more of a compelling and interesting story. I'm not just Kristy Campbell, the graphic designer. I'm now Kristy Campbell, the graphic designer and a confident self-doubter. That is far more engaging and tells far more of a story. Yeah, it's a really awesome, he did a great talk at Adobe Max last year. Highly recommend, Kristy. It was awesome. Yeah, so it's a great little way of trying to build your own authentic self and how to share that with the world.
I think you've really like that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that, because even those practical steps of looking at what you do, looking at past experiences, your roots, your childhood, because we really are, I hear it all the time. And I'm sure, Kristy, clients come to you because, one, you're the best. If you don't know, Kristy, I've worked with Kristy. I've hired Kristy. Kristy came in to save my ass when I was like, I need you to make Full and Filled look what I want in my head. And she did. She's incredible. And everything that Full and Filled is, I'm so grateful that I was able to have Kristy and her team to create the brand. But a lot of people come to me and say, but I'm not creative. I don't have these fun, quirky ideas. I don't have these playful ideas. And you were. Like, as children, do you think that we were like, I can't imagine? I don't have an imagination. I can't play on the playground. I don't know how to play it. As we've grown up, we've gone into corporate jobs. This is how we do it. And as you said in your work beforehand, there was little creativity. And it's like a muscle. When you use the muscle of getting creative, coming up with creative ideas, of course, it's going to come easier. But as we've got older, a lot of people have lost that skill of creativity, that side to them. And so I love that you've connected back with younger Kristy, loved pink, loved ponies, and you've allowed that to come into your brand. So when it comes to bringing authenticity into your brand, it's like, okay, let's continue on this. Let's continue on this fun front where I get to tap into younger Kristy and the playfulness of it.
Totally. It's such a funny thing, like as simple as something like when I opened my first office space, that was a big deal for me because it was, scary thinking about the rent and like, will I be able to pay for this? But I had this vision and I wanted an office. The only thing I wanted was somewhere that had like window space onto the floor level so people could look in. And I had this vision of having a giant pink life-size horse in there. And actually my mum was like, oh, I just don't know, that could look really tacky. Like, is that going to be a bit much? And I was like, no, Mum, I have a vision. Trust me, I can see it and I know this is going to work. And I went on the hunt to try and find this real life giant plastic horse. And as someone who rode horses, I knew that it was possible. You know, they have them sitting in equestrian shops with saddles on them, but they all look pretty ratty, to be honest. And I was really hunting high and low. They were like $10,000. The ones that I was finding, I was like, that is so much money for a giant plastic horse. And I found one on Facebook Marketplace. Wildly, the guy was just selling it.
I can't believe you found one on Marketplace.
I know. He was selling, it was just in his backyard. It was black and it was actually a lamp, funny enough. And so I bought it for $1,500, got him professionally painted pink. And now he's become like this prominent thing in my brand. And he's everywhere. Like we've got stickers, you know, all over my phone, all over my teens' phones. Like he's everywhere. We've got gifs of him. We've got Instagram filters of him. And everyone knows who Pedro is. He's the, you know, giant pink pony. And I've brought my brand to life. I'm not just thinking what's on my screen and what's on my business card. I'm completely and utterly bringing it to life. And he's just this awesome statement piece. Like he's the mascot of the Pink Pony brand. But again, you're just trying to push those boundaries and how do we take the brand further and bring it to life more. Another company who does a great job at this is Duolingo. I don't know if you've looked at Duolingo's Instagram page. You know, they had a mascot, but they completely...
They don't really have a face of the brand. Al is the face.
Yeah, exactly. And they brought him to life. And as an education brand, you would think that education, a bit boring, like study, you know, whatevs. But they're so playful and so fun. And you look at their Instagram videos and they've got nothing to do with education, but they're so fun. A great example of how you bring a brand to life through something as simple as having a life-size mascot. And I love that.
Yes. So I think this is really good. So building a brand that is recognized. What you've just said there, bringing the brand to life. When you can do that, then people can experience it. People can have emotions and feel about it. And it's going to stand out as well. Because that's the thing, is you can't just stand out. You actually need people to feel. So bringing your brand to life. Can we talk about, so I love this. Let's sort of do a little bit of like a fiery, all the different ways that Pink Pony is not just a logo. You've spoken about it a bit already, but let's go through all the things. I recently did a reel where it's like, my boyfriend says not everything has to be on brand. And I'm like, you are wrong. Everything in my life, I embody my brand. And it doesn't mean I can't separate myself from it, but I embody my brand. And so let's talk about all the ways, Kristy, that you're like, okay, this is done strategically. It's not just pink. It's not just this.
The first one, which I love, and I actually learned this from an old client of mine, and it's wear your brand. So essential, like Taylor Swift, obviously her outfits are incredible, and now people are taking on those outfits. I started this thing where I decided to wear pink to all business events. And now you'll see in every video, pretty much, I wear pink that you see on social media. Every event that I go to, every business interaction I go to, most podcasts, I mean, I'm not actually wearing pink today, but most podcasts that I do, I wear pink. And it's just strategic because I'm trying to imprint the idea in people's minds. I'm trying to carve that idea that anytime they see pink, they think of Pink Pony and me as a business and a brand. And it's paid off so well. Like last year at Adobe Max, I was walking through the conference center where hundreds of people literally gather. This thing is like a massive, big box where people walk in and around all the sort of stalls. And people ran over to me and they were like, Kristy, we saw your pink and we knew it was you. Like that is the perfect example of how it's worked out for me. And like it just, again, bringing it to life. That's a simple thing that anyone could do. Literally embody your brand, wear your brand, as simple as pink. I mean, I'm not like super strategic and it has to be the right shade of pink every time I wear it, but any kind of pink, I'll wear it at any business event. So that's one way. Another way is obviously trying to, if you have an office space or some kind of space that you even like film in, again, try and implant or sort of imprint ideas into that space. Like I have pink walls. I could have just painted this office white and had quite like a sort of stripped back office because most people do. Most people go down the path of very minimalist looking offices, but I decided to literally turn my office into everything the Pink Pony brand is. Again, it's paid off very well because it's part of my filming space, which is so great and so on brand for my page, which is awesome. Other ways that I've sort of brought it to life, as simple as things like Instagram filters. Got some Instagram filters made for the business so people could now use those filters. I can use those filters across everything. There's so many so many little things that come to mind.
While you think, I can come up with some, because for someone who is not even in the brand, the fact that I could come up with a list and things that I remember. For example, one, and this is what we're talking
yes.
about here, is I talk about how powerful and how video marketing, it can be really good for allowing you to be remembered, to literally take up space in someone's brain. Kristy, a while back, when there was that, I'm going to insert the song because I'm not going to try and sing it, but anyway, there was this trend where you sort of zoomed in and it was a watch or it was a sort of circular face, and then this animal sort of danced around.
Yeah.
And you guys took it, and I love this. You took the trend that everyone was experiencing, that was being, and I remember no one else's but yours of this trend. And were you the very first person on it? No.
I love that.
But it was only yours that I remembered because you combined your brand, Pink Pony, Pedro, and instead of what everyone else was doing, you had your pink pony, you had Pink Pedro dancing around. And that right there is just another example, is that to be a memorable brand doesn't mean you can't jump on trends, can't jump on XYZ, but it's about leaving your own mark so that it's yours. That right there, love that. The fact that you have these reels where you'll start by sitting on Pedro. You'll start by, we went for coffee and we had to bring Pedro. So these little things, even in the way you tell stories, it's this fun, playful bringing in the brand that makes people want to watch and continue watching more.
There's another one, thinking like as you're talking, I'm thinking of all these other ideas. Again, this is something a lot of people can do themselves, is I wanted to do a brand photo shoot for me and my team. I wanted some updated photos. I hadn't done one for like 2 or 3 years, and I had only had me in the past, and now I have a team, so I wanted all of us there. I could have easily just gone down the route of like, you know, going to a studio, maybe taking a couple of corporate looking headshots and just being quite like on a background, but I was like, no, we can do better than that. Like, we are a bold, daring, badass business. I like to think so anyway. Why don't I inject all of that creativity into our photo shoot as well? And we actually took Pedro into town, which is like a 45-minute drive away. It was a bit of a mission to get him there to go to the studio, but it was so worth it because we got these incredible photos that were like, I mean, I'm not saying we're models, but like, damn, we looked good. Like, it looked so professional. It was creative. It was out of the box. It was something that often like a design agency wouldn't do. They looked epic. And it was, again, I injected the creativity that I give my clients and my own brand into the photo shoot. Like, why can't you make everything fun and playful? And although they're fun and playful, they look serious. Like, we look like we mean business. Although we're all wearing pink, we kind of look like Legally Blonde, but for designers. But they still look badass and professional with this like playful and edgy energy. You can do it all. Like, I do think if you own a business, like start breaking the boundaries and go that a little bit further and like take it that next step. I think girls, I don't know if you don't know the business Girls Get Off. They actually sell sex toys. It started in New Zealand, but I think she lives in Australia now. She does an incredible, definitely look at their brand because they're incredible. Girls Get Off. The way that they market their toys is just honestly amazing. Again, they bring their brand to life. They just do their crazy reels and it's so memorable. They're not just selling sex toys. There's so much more than that. Like, it's really awesome. So I do highly recommend anyone going to have a look at their brand as well.
That's really good. And I had a few thoughts as you were talking. I was like, oh, this is good. This is good. This is really good too. But pink. A lot of brands, a lot of businesses use pink. And so no matter what your brand colors are, this is why you can't just rely on that to become a memorable brand, because there are a lot of brands online that are pink. But when I see pink, despite the fact that I follow so many women, despite the fact that I've got pink in my own branding, I still connect the dots. I might see pink and I might think of, depending on the situation, might think of a few people. But you are one because you've made it so much more than pink. You've brought that to life. And I think a really important part to note is if you're listening and you're like, okay, I want my brand to be the one. I want my brand to be the trailblazer, the pink pony. And it doesn't happen. I know we hear this a lot, but it doesn't happen overnight. But this is a good thing for you. You don't need to have all these quirks and all these intricacies to your brand right now. You've got your logo, you've got your face, you've got your fonts, you've got your colors. Cool. What's one thing perhaps about you that is so, this is good, this is good. So when I was in uni, Kristy, I had someone create, like, it was like a thing, like a starter pack. And so it was this graphic with all the key things, key components to you as a person. So it's like, if I had like a starter pack for Alicia, this is what would be in it. This one top, I always wore these crop tops, Closer, the chain smokers, these things that people like connect you with. It's like your brand, whether you've realized it or not. So what would be kind of like in your starter pack? What would be in there, and what could you perhaps bring into your brand?
Yes.
For example, iced coffee o'clock. I was like, I have my iced coffee every day at pretty much the same
Yes.
time. And
Yeah.
so why don't I turn this into a live? And then I had people saying, I can't have iced coffees in the morning without your lives now. I can't have iced coffee without thinking of you. How cool is that?
Yes, that is so amazing. I love this idea. This reminds me of, I saw a TikTok, an amazing woman speaking. I can't remember who it was, but she was talking about branding and what is branding. And she said brand and branding is strong associations with certain things. And that basically, in a weird nutshell, is what it is. So this is the starter pack. This is your brand starter pack, is what are the strong associations people have with you or, you know, your brand. Again, you don't need to make it all, showcase it all right now, but you could kind of start to play on it a little bit more. And essentially, like with me, yeah, like I said, I put everything I am into my business kind of naturally. It just kind of flowed. But in my starter pack, like especially 20 years ago when I was, you know, I don't know, a 10-year-old girl, my starter pack would look very similar to what it does now. It would be ponies, pink, unicorns, like glitter. It would have been drawing. It would have been being creative, making movies. I used to make home movies with my friends, like silly, ridiculous movies. Literally, and dancing, all of that, like performing, all of that. If you just literally 20 years later, my starter pack is pink, horses, unicorns, you know, the home movies I was talking about, I now inject into social media and I create movies basically on social media. My performing, my dancing when I was a kid is now turned into performing, but it's speaking on stage. Like it's literally the starter pack that I had when I was, I was 10 years old. And if you can like really dive into that, I think, yeah, like that is such an easy way of thinking about what is your brand and who are you to the world. And you can choose it in a funny way. Like you can really harness certain parts of you and just really hone in on those. A good example, and I'm a fan of the podcast Happy Hour with Lucy and Nikki. I don't know if you listen to the girls, but they also have a fashion.
Yeah, I think I followed them and I got a notification, new episode this morning.
Yes, yeah. Not going to lie, Lucy followed me, and the day that she followed me, I was like, so excited. But they are really good, another great example of how you have this brand association with whatever they do. They have this like edgy appeal, this like sort of sex appeal in like a not too over the top way, but they're very like cool. They love going out and partying, but it's in this like, again, professional manner where they are badass businesswoman and they do so well for themselves. Like, again, they have this, they've managed to put everything they are into their brand, and it's just, again, it's authentic, which is that silly word that we like to use. But yeah, it's a really great way of building your own brand.
I think that that's a really good connection piece, though, of how people can actually take this and start applying it themselves. So I love that. How do people get more of you, Kristy? How do people, whether they are building a brand and want to hire the agency, whether they want to come to Adobe Max, whether they just want to be in your world and being inspired by you, how do we come find more of Kristy and the Pink Pony team?
Oh, I love that. So we have like across Instagram and TikTok, Pink Pony Creative, which is all of our agency stuff, you know, as a team, collectively what we do. And then my personal brand is Kristy the Pink Pony. And I just share obviously more like vulnerable things, my experiences, my opinions, my thoughts. Connect with me. Would love to chat. If you are in America, in Miami or close to Miami, come to Adobe Max. It's in October. It's an awesome event, so highly recommend that. But actually this year, with the type of session I'm doing, it's being live streamed. So it'll be recorded visually and audio, which is exciting, but also nerve-wracking because I know a lot of people watch those live streams. So anyone can watch it this year. And I talk all about taking your unseen brand unforgettable. And this is all about like the power of personal branding. So, and I dive into a lot of good stuff. So I definitely highly recommend. But yeah, I would love to chat. Inquired, or whether it's just about branding.
I love it. And what we'll do is we'll get the link and stuff so that way if people need to register online, if they aren't able to be there in person, they can still register online, because I think that flows on really beautifully from the conversation today. So that's absolutely brilliant. Kristy, before we finish up today, before I let you run off back to the ponies, back to the stables, I would love to finish on a quote, a statement, a phrase where you heard this and it really changed the way you thought about things. It sort of gave you a pivot. It gave you a shift that really was quite powerful in your journey. Can you think of anything in your journey where there's been that statement, that quote, that phrase that comes to mind?
Yes, of course. So there's actually two that I always touch on. One of them is opportunity dances with those on the dance floor. similar to, where preparation meets opportunity. You've got to be out there doing it to actually get those opportunities. So that's one. And then the other one is you're far too smart to be the only thing standing in your own way. And I think we can all really relate to that, especially those who are sort of starting their journey, because we put so many mental blocks in our head. You can't do this. You're not good enough. You don't have the skills. You're not prepared, but you're putting yourself in your own way and you're too smart for that. So get out there and do it.
I love it. Can you repeat that? You're too smart to be in your own way one again, because that's just, I want to finish on that. That's so good.
Yes, it's you're far too smart to be the only thing standing in your own way.
Mic drop. Mic drop. Kristy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Beautiful mic drops. Silence.
You are just one of a kind.
Thanks so much, Alicia. I've loved it.